and gentlemen, welcome back to Slamtown. I'm Mike Ginn. That's Dan Bakley. This episode, we're going to be talking all about Vince McMahon. He announced his retirement. We'll talk about what it means to the industry now, what he's done for the industry, and we'll also address all the controversies. And then we'll finish up talking about the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. His last match is also this Sunday. So we'll take a look at all that and get our thoughts. But first, go ahead and head over to fightersfirst.shop, get the Slamtown merch. Dan's got his shirt on. I also got the New Japan Bad News Allen shirt. So go ahead and check out all that. Let our apparel be a part of your story. But Dan, it's been a minute. Look at this. We're back. Slamtown. How you feeling?
Man. I am feeling good. A lot of wrestling news. And, of course, we're going to talk about the biggest news of them all.
Yeah, we don't have time to go into everything. Though I am very curious about the Jonathan Gresham situation right now. But that said, big news dropped over. Of course, it's almost like a political story, right? How do you want to hide a political story? You drop it on a Friday right as the news cycle's ending, going into the weekend. And that's what WWE did. Vince all of a sudden just let out, of all things, a tweet. Vinnie Mac, a tweet saying, I'm 77. I've done enough. I'm ready to move on. We all know a lot of the real reasons why he's ready to move on, and we'll address that a little later in the show. But I wanted to kind of start off and talking about his impact on the industry, right? Like, this man has revolutionized wrestling. Take your personal opinions out of it. If there was no Vince McMahon, we'd probably still be, it would definitely not be the television spectacle it is now. It wouldn't have the pay-per-view that it did. It wouldn't have gone through all these massive eras that we went through. Ted Turner wouldn't have gotten involved. We might still be sitting there watching the Gagnes in AWA. Like, there's a lot of stuff that happened because of Vince McMahon. He took a regional group of promotions and made it a global promotion. And that's all Vince McMahon. So I want to go ahead and start off with you. Tell me what some of your, what do you think is the biggest impact Vince made on the wrestling business?
Making it global, just like you said. And back in the day, they had the regional scenes where they kind of kept to themselves. They had this unsung theme of, okay, you're in this area, you cover that. I'm in this area, they're in that area. We're not going to run into each other's business because there's plenty to go around. And he kind of bought his father's company and made it global. He was like, you know what? I'm not all for that. I want to go to the next level. I want to become big. And that's what he did. It definitely helped that he had the Northeast and he had Madison Square Garden, which is like the Mecca.
Being in New York, he definitely was probably the only one that could do it.
But he made it happen. He made it a global thing. And just like you said, if it wasn't for him doing that, you wouldn't have gotten WCW, like had NWA turned into WCW. You wouldn't have had Impact. You wouldn't have had AEW. New Japan wouldn't have gotten to the level that they're at now because of it, because they were just their own thing. But he was, whether you liked him or not, he was a huge component of the wrestling industry at that moment.
I mean, you got to remember, this guy, let's be fair, Vince McMahon didn't start with money. He started also a poor kid in North Carolina. His dad left like right when he was a kid. But he didn't even really meet his dad till he was 12. The Vince McMahon that we know that started WWF, that Vince didn't even know him until he was 12.
Yeah.
And, his brother went with his dad, and the story goes that his mom and then his siblings, basically lived in like trailer parks in North Carolina. The stepdad used to beat the mom. Like, Vince came up hard. Like, he didn't come up with like a silver spoon in his mouth, but he also came up with that work ethic of, I'm going to go ahead and be something. You're not going to hold me back at this point, because he's already been through hell. At this point, there's nothing you could do to him. So, he starts off early on. I think he was like 24 or something like that when he started doing like the play-by-play in the late 60s, early 70s for WWF. His dad, linked up with the promoters and became a big deal in the Northeast, took over New York. And then from there, obviously Vince eventually bought his dad out, and he was like, I'm going to sink or swim. He needed something big. He wanted to call what eventually would become WrestleMania a million different names before it actually, Howard Finkel's actually the one that came up with the name WrestleMania. And they were like, Okay, yeah, that does sound better. Let's go with that. Good thing he did. Thank you, Howard. But he signed Hulk Hogan away from Vern Gagne and AWA. Like a lot of guys would come into a promotion, like Dusty Rhodes would come up to fight superstar Billy Graham, but he didn't actually belong to that promotion. They would just travel and they would go promotion to promotion. And Vince started signing these guys to exclusive deals. The Bruno Sammartinos, the Hulk Hogans, the Bob Backlunds, the legends of the day. He brought in a bunch of people from Stampede, the Jake the Snake Roberts and the Junkyard Dog and Macho Man and all these people that just blew up in the 80s because Vince had this idea of we can be bigger than a local television network. We can be bigger. And I don't think it happens if he's in Minnesota. I don't think it happens if he's in Dallas. Yeah, I grew up. I'm old. I remember AWA on ESPN. I remember World Class Wrestling and UWF and all those things on ESPN. But TBS had Georgia Championship Wrestling and the original Crockett Promotions and all that stuff and NWA. Sometimes once in a very blue moon, I'd see Championship Wrestling from Florida. And I'm in DC at this point. I'm in Northern Virginia. So that was what was on our television. And it was a big deal when NWA or somebody would come touring through the DC Armory or something like that. But it wasn't as big of a deal when Hulk Hogan and, the rock and wrestling promotion that Vince had turned it into, he brought entertainment into wrestling. He brought it to become, and people can say now, oh, I love AEW because it's real wrestling. As real as it can be, right? I'm not stupid, but I'm saying it's more athletic wrestling. It's more about what happens in the ring. But I think there's a lot to be said for what happens outside of the ring that keeps people's interest in professional wrestling, the storylines that lead to that big match. Vince knew better than anybody how to build a story, how to build a simple Hulk Hogan versus Iron Sheik for the WWF title. And Iron Sheik is this bad guy from Iran because he'd always play on what's going on in the world too. He was very smart about that, about taking real world controversy and putting it into his storylines. And then guess what? That also drew attention from mainstream news and mainstream sports stations. And all of a sudden they're like, can you believe he did that? Well, yeah, now you're watching because he did that. And I think that's what Vince's impact on the industry really is that he put eyeballs on the industry. You can say it wasn't a purist. You can say he wasn't, the technical expertise of a Vern Gagne. He didn't have the family history of the Von Erichs or the Harts. But he made his own money. He took a small loan to buy the company from his dad that he didn't even have the ability to pay back if it wasn't successful. It was just going to be, WWF would have been out of business if it didn't work. And then he brought in the Hulk Hogans, the Roddy Pipers, the Steamboats, the Macho Mans, and just a great influx of talent. And obviously his relationship with Andre helped catapult him around the globe. Connected him with, like you said, New Japan. If you go back and watch, we had clips on the network from Bad News Allen from back in the day, Bad News Brown. His first appearance in WWF was while he was in New Japan and fighting Ricky Choso and all those guys because they were the first to go through the Forbidden Door. You talk about that Forbidden Door now. WWF opened that Forbidden Door. Nobody would have known about New Japan or All Japan. But they had those relationships. Antonio Inoki became a big deal. They worked with the Muhammad Ali's and the Mr. T's and the famous people of every era. Even Drew Carey, every era, they had somebody famous coming in that door. And everybody tried to copy them. WCW tried to copy them. Eric Bischoff did everything he could. He tried to one-up them with the Dennis Rodmans and the Karl Malones and stuff like that. But nobody could match Vince. He ended up buying WCW. He bought ECW and tried to keep them afloat for a little while. Every competition he's bought. And I think his ruthless, you want to borrow the term ruthless aggression? I think his ruthless aggression is the impact he's had on this business.
Even if you want to jump into WrestleMania, he went all in with that. Just like you said, he went all in with the getting a loan to buy WWF at the time. But
it was
he went all in with WrestleMania. He put all of his life's worth into that program. And one of the things was getting Mr. T, like you said. He got Mr. T into that, Roddy Piper. You had the whole thing that led into it, the whole program that led into it.
Mr. Wonderful and all that stuff.
Yeah. And it was he was either going to succeed, be big, or it was going to be a failure. And he made sure that it succeeded because of bringing people into it from the entertainment business.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big risk, and he had to go with the Rock and Rollers because they were the ones that were willing to take the risk. The Alice Cooper, Cyndi Lauper, like they don't. If it fails, it's not going to hurt them.
No,
but it helped Vince. It helped Vince get mainstream media. It helped him. And keep in mind, Vince was hated by the other promoters. They put out like professional hits, like hitmen, to try to take out Vince McMahon back in the 80s because he put him out of business. AWA's had a few variations, but they basically went out of business. World Class basically went out of business. UWF, same thing. Global, which is also like part of the UWF thing. I'm dating myself, I know. But the NWA is down basically to whatever Billy Corgan says, power, I guess.
Yeah.
And then WCW, like WCW kind of separated off. Ted Turner tried to do his own thing, compete with Vince. Gave him a hell of a fight for a couple years, almost put WWF out of business. But that just shows how smart Vince is, because when it was at its darkest moment, he let Bret Hart go. He let some of these people he couldn't afford go, and then went public. And when he went public, all that money came in. And now all of a sudden, now you got to fight. You got to remember, the Vince McMahon, the Mr. McMahon character, that didn't even start until like 97, like the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
Like, that's when it was exposed after the Montreal Screwjob that he actually owned the company. I mean, people knew, like real people, like real smart marks, they knew. But the casual fan had no idea that Vince McMahon owned it all. They thought he was just a play-by-play announcer. That move right there made him, I mean, would you agree that Vince McMahon's probably the best heel in the history of the business?
He has to be.
Like, I can't even think of somebody even close. But yeah, so Vince's impact on the business is unmistakable. Like if nothing would be here, AEW wouldn't be here, WCW wouldn't have still been here. Ted Turner would have fell out of interest. His stockholders, the AOL merger, all that stuff would have wiped that off the map. If you look at it, if it wasn't for the fact that Vince won the Monday Night Wars, we might not have what we have now. We'd be watching wrestling like a secret. It'd be like it's on late night at 11 o'clock on like some network up there in your cable channels. Like, oh my God, like nobody would be able to talk about it around the water cooler. Nobody would care. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't be a big deal. So that I think a lot of wrestlers thank Vince for. I know he has a lot of enemies. You talk about the controversies, right? When I say Vince McMahon controversy, ignoring what's happening right now, right? What would the first thing comes to your mind?
The first thing that comes to my mind would have been the steroid thing back in the 90s. And
so you're talking about a guy that survived the United States government coming after him.
But what's crazy with that is the fact that when that happened, they were still private. They were still private when that whole thing happened. So
they were still private for another 15 years after that.
Yeah. But so it makes you think, with everything going on now, what would have happened if they were public then? Would that came out and just ruined the whole company?
He would have retired in the 80s.
Yeah. and then that would have killed everything here. And then it just makes you think, how would that affect the WCW then? Because WCW was kind of trying to find their way then during that time.
NWA at that point.
Yeah, it's just crazy to think that how lucky he was that he didn't go public then, and then he went public later on, because he could have got shelled before he even tried to get started.
Yeah, he only went public to battle Ted Turner's money. Like, that's the only reason he ever went public. He never wanted to lose control. Let's be real. The controversy going on right now with the hush money, if it was still a private company, you would have never heard about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to remember, Vince McMahon, let me put this out here. This hush money thing is the least scandal of his career.
Yeah.
Like, he's accused of rape. Like, he allegedly raped the very first female WWF referee, Rita Chatterley, right? I think that's her name. Like, he buried the fact that she even existed because she like turned him down and ended up forcing himself on her in the back of a car. Whether that's true or not, no charges ever been pressed, but the story's been corroborated by a couple different sources. And then she's never been heard from really again until like maybe like I think last year she started popping up a little bit, and this year with everything going on. But you talk about scandals, like that got pushed under because it was a private company and nobody would go against Vince McMahon. You have the United States government coming after this guy because of steroid scandals. Hulk Hogan had to testify. Jesse Bobby Ventura got buried for a little while because he went against Vince. He had to like work his way into Vince's good graces again. And Vince won that because it's a private company. People made their own choices. And he was eventually, I think, ruled innocent of distribution, which was the bigger charge.
Yeah.
He was only ruled like guilty of possession or something like that. But he didn't get escaped completely scot-free on that one. And then today, like you said, it's a public company. Now, I want to ask you something because and I haven't heard this anywhere. This is my own conspiracy theory. About 2 months ago, Stephanie McMahon was forced out of the company. You could say that she stepped aside for personal reasons.
Yeah.
But you kind of got the feeling that she was being pushed aside because anytime WWF has something bad, you can even ask, this whole Sasha Naomi thing. They start burying you, right? They start leaking out false news. Like they started leaking out that Triple H and Stephanie were having marital problems, which couldn't be further from the truth. Like they're probably one of the most tight-knit families you'll ever see, especially since he just had the whole heart situation. Like she's been all about trying to take care of him. Now they are famous and rich, so you don't know if it might actually be true. You don't know. But for all intents and purposes, they have a really solid family. All that stuff started leaking. And then all of a sudden, Stephanie gets pushed out. And then not even a month later, all the Vince McMahon stories start popping off, right? And they say nothing's worse than a woman scorned. Like, don't ever screw over a woman. They'll come back and get you. So who's the one that comes out on top of Vince getting screwed over? Stephanie. Yeah, she's now this co-CEO and chairwoman of the board. Triple H has gotten all his power back.
Well, that's another thing. I was
don't say anything.
That was another thing. I said that was another thing that I was going to bring up. Not only her, but then you have his son-in-law, Triple H, who was running NXT, very successful. A lot of people loved it. Who took the blame for that? He put the blame on Triple H. Then Triple H had his medical issues, and it kind of gave him out into going, okay, let's put you aside. You don't need to come back. And he replaced him with Bruce Pritchard. And then we thought he wasn't even going to come back with what things were being put out. But now, just like you said, now everything's foreseen differently.
Like I said, my conspiracy theory thinks that Stephanie is the one that leaked to the Wall Street Journal, or like, oh, you might want to look into this. And then, of course, they found all the dirt exactly where Stephanie said it was probably buried.
Yeah.
And then even when she sat there and said, thank you, Vince, on SmackDown, and she looked at the camera, I love you, Dad. It was kind of like, I got you, Dad. I got you.
And then because you've seen all the craziness within the family, you see the tabloids put out that Vince said that Shane wouldn't even get a pop anymore on TV because of the whole Royal Rumble thing. And it's like, that's your own son, and you're saying that. So
there's two things. One, I think Nick Khan has definitely gotten in Vince's head as far as making this a business and not personal. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, but he definitely over the last couple of years has turned this into a business. Like through the navigating through COVID and all that stuff, this is a business. And your family is great, but this isn't the 80s where you can get away with stuff. Now you're a public company. And I don't know how Nick Khan really maneuvered his way all the way up to now where he is co-CEO. Like Vince gets pushed out and he's the one left holding the bag. Like he's got like, oh my God, I'm now in charge. Stephanie has more power than him because she's also the chairwoman. But he's co-CEO. He's not.
It's like she has her side of things that she runs, and he has his, which his side is more of the entertainment and I believe contracts.
Business,
the business side. But personally, for me, I feel like he's a Dwayne Johnson covert operative. If you want to say,
talked about that.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, he's in there helping The Rock, because I feel like The Rock's going to want to buy it someday. And I think the XFL is kind of like his project to see if he can handle things like that.
Yeah, I mean, look, not everything Vince has touched has turned to gold, right? No. The first XFL failed. The World Bodybuilding Federation failed, though not all in his fault, because Luger had the motorcycle accident, I believe, or car accident. Yeah. And he was supposed to be the star of like this World Bodybuilding Federation. And then, of course, that actually worked out because then Luger came and became this American hero and Yokozuna and all this stuff when he was never really even supposed to be on WWF television. He was supposed to be the bodybuilding.
Yeah.
But, you know, he survived the steroid scandal. And now this scandal is definitely something he's not going to survive because it's a public company. It's a public company, and he was fine. Like, he was joking around when he first got like accused of the hush money, right? Like, he was coming out on SmackDown and Raw and welcoming people. He's like still in charge of creative. He was like basically like F you to everybody, right? Like, he
even said that on camera, not on television camera, but on WWE camera, going back to the back, and he was like, "Fuck everybody, we're united," or something along those lines.
And let's be real, everybody had his back at the time. Nobody was like crossing him. A lot of the veteran superstars, like Vince is loved by veteran superstars.
Yeah.
Like, the people that are his top 5% love Vince McMahon. People that could never crack those 5%, they're the ones running around different promotions talking crap about him, right?
Yeah.
Like, the truth is, Brock Lesnar almost walked off of SmackDown, or he did walk off, and they had to talk him back into SmackDown last weekend, like, to finish off his story, which he was actually projected to win the title by all accounts on SummerSlam, and now we don't know because Roman has to go film a movie. And so now they're like, do we just keep Roman part-time? Do we give Brock his way out? Like, we have to just, all as fans, this is actually awesome because now we can actually wait and see, because they had leaked this.
I think it's still going to happen, but I think that it might be a twist now. I believe like, I believe Theory's going to come out and he's going to be the reason Brock wins. And you can still
I'll give you another twist. You think Theory will walk out with the title?
No, I do not.
You sure?
I could be wrong.
Because one guy's going to do a movie. The other guy doesn't want to be there if Vince isn't there. They had plans to squash Theory.
You see, but here's my reason, because I feel like at the end of the day, I feel like Brock's going to win. He's not going to pin. Reigns won't have anything to do with the decision. We'll keep him at his highest peak because he won't have the titles, but he didn't get pinned. So,
you think it's going to be like a Seth Rollins thing where he turns it into
a three-way? It turns into a three-way.
Except this time he doesn't.
But then, with you said Roman Reigns going away, you can have Brock versus Drew McIntyre at Clash at the Castle, where you can have Drew McIntyre win there. And that's where you can have Brock.
Give Brock one more giant payday before he bows out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt that he probably got a phone call saying, we'll pay you this much money. Please just come back.
He probably got a call from Vince himself.
He might have, because let's be real. Vince is still a shareholder, the biggest shareholder of the company. He still owns the company.
Yeah.
So it's just in his best interest for WWE to succeed if he's not there anymore, because his stocks go up and down. And I've also joked around with friends thinking, well, what happens if Vince just says screw it and sells the company underneath Stephanie and Triple H, and there's another major shareholder that comes in and shakes everything up? There's so many things open, but before we move on to what's going to look like without him, let me ask you this. We know about and let me say this one thing. People crying that he was cheating on his wife, he wasn't.
No.
They've been separated for about 15, 20 years.
I believe if he did anything that they had it, they knew what each other were doing.
Yeah, it could very well be open. But
it was probably like an open thing where maybe she was like, if you're going to go do something, don't be sneaky about it. Let me at least know. Because
like you go back to when he was making out with Sable or Tori Wilson or any of these Trish Stratus, like he was sitting there doing all this on camera. There's rumors even before that they were separated, because when Linda stepped down as president of WWF at the time, there was rumors that, okay, their marriage is done. And they've stayed together for public purposes and for political purposes. Obviously, she was part of Trump's administration for small business and stuff like that. But they have not even lived together, I believe, in the last 15 years. So anybody thinking he's doing this, he wasn't. What he was doing was fraternizing with an employee and paying people to keep it quiet. You could say sexual harassment because he was paying them to go ahead. I believe most of the relationships he paid hush money were all consensual.
And even a few weeks ago, before all this came out, Jericho had the perfect thing to say about it. He said that he did something, but then they took payment for it. It's not like that's what's happened. He's likely not, at the time, he was likely not going to get anything away with it, because what's wrong with that? If they take money from it, it's them being like, okay, I'm okay with it. It's them consenting. It's them consenting to it.
But now that you're a publicly traded company, you have to declare that on a paper form. There has to be a paper trail when you're giving company money, not his private money. That's where Vince screwed up. He didn't give away his private money. He gave away WWE money. He raised their salary $100,000. He did this. He did that. Now you're giving away shareholders' money, and you have to declare that. And he never did, and that's what took him down. They forced him out because now the SEC is involved doing an investigation. It's no longer like, internal corporate looking into it. Now the SEC and the government's involved, and they still have a hard on from Vince from the 80s and the steroid scandal. They want to win.
And the crazy thing is, of all people to find something, it was WWE itself. WWE did their own investigation, and they found out that $14.6 million was unallocated. They didn't.
Where they know? How they know how to look, Dan? How they know where to look?
Somebody that you might have said earlier.
Just saying.
But then there's that, and then to me, it's a big story when how Gumbel and HBO gets involved. Like, they're coming through, they're doing their own investigation as well, which they're probably working with WWE too, and that's supposed to come out in the next couple of weeks apparently. So when they get involved, that something is really happening. Like, just like you said, if this would have been from his own money, his own private money, we wouldn't be hearing about this, because then
it wouldn't be a scandal.
It'll look bad on him.
And that's it.
And that's it. But because he did it with the company's money, you're messing with the company. Had he not retired when he did, this would have blown up in his face, because then with everything coming out, that would have messed with sponsors, with people working with the networks. The networks wouldn't have been happy.
Down with them.
Yeah, they would have been affected by it, and they would have been blown up. So he must have known that something was brewing, and he got a hand of it. So him stepping down is basically him getting ahead of the situation.
Trying to, the
company, yeah.
Trying to, because they still could end up taking WWE down with him, because he was an employee when it happened. We don't know what's going to be the result of this. I think him getting out of it allows them to either possibly survive this, or B, what we talked about a few episodes ago, would WWE ever sell? And that's before any of this. It doesn't lower the sale price. It keeps it, a profitable company that somebody could get into, a Fox, a Disney, a partnership with The Rock, whoever. And that also was the Disney avenue that we were talking about.
There's even the company that owns the UFC has been in talks, apparently, about possibly.
You think Endeavor would buy them?
Yeah, I think they would. If it was a company like that's profitable, they bought UFC. So,
I'll go a step further. You got also people nobody's talking about. What if the Saudis bought them?
Yeah,
I mean, we already know they're heavy investors in the WWE.
Exactly, and the heavy investors. They invested into a few Premier League soccer teams that they put in, and you've seen what they've done over there with Newcastle over there with their team. They put a lot of money into improving that team, and you're seeing the benefits of it now because they have money, and money.
I'll tell you one thing. I feel bad for Vince about one thing. Every project he's done outside of WWF has been basically a failure, right?
Yeah.
The movies were like, all right, they kind of treaded water, especially with the John Cena movies and stuff like that. But his first XFL failed miserably. The second one wasn't bad. The second one was doing great, and it ran into COVID.
Yeah, it was doing good.
They had good ratings. They had good attendance. They were looking forward to the next year to go even further. He had the issue with Oliver Luck, which was kind of like a thing about bringing in talent, and they hold what was the wide receiver he brought in, and Luck got mad because he said you couldn't do this. You said I couldn't do this. Why can you do this? Who was the former? Was it Anthony Miller? No. It was a wide receiver that had a veteran wide receiver they brought in for like later in the season. But let's be real. Because I was in DC at the time, every DC Defenders game was sold out. Yeah. Like Pep Hamilton had those guys playing hard. They had the kid from Ohio State. Who's the
Cordell Jones?
Cordell Jones. And they were playing great. Even he got upset. He got moved out for Josh Jackson, I believe, at the time. Like he got benched because like they were playing well. Yeah. And I actually went to a game in February right before everything happened, not knowing that I probably like opened myself up to like 19,000 people giving me COVID because we didn't know at the time it was a thing. Yeah. But the XFL was rolling, and they would have been a nice spring league for people to keep doing and keep getting into the NFL for years to come. And they ran into difficulties with COVID shutting everything down. They lost a bunch of money, but like every major league did.
With that being a startup company and getting hit by COVID, they're not able to keep on spending because you have nobody watching it and you can't keep playing because you need those fans there for a startup company. So kind of a bad situation. Like they were doing well, but then a bad situation kind of killed it because they were just getting started.
Almost like Vince's dream come true. He always wanted a successful football league. That was his dream. And he had it. He finally had it, and COVID took it away. Like Vince was just snake bit over that. And The Rock's now picking up the pieces with that, and who knows what he'll do.
He's already doing a lot of things before he even gets started.
I don't think he's going to be successful, and I'll tell you why. One, they're still under lawsuit for the logo they launched because they stole Sue Bird and them's Together logo.
Yeah.
And they haven't said a word about it, but it's clearly a direct ripoff of their like logo from Stu Bird's company. Two, they got rid of some of the hot markets they had. For instance, there's no longer a Tampa team. Tampa Bay doesn't have a team, but guess what? The Tampa Bay Bandits were one of the better teams in the XFL last go around. They did keep a team in DC. I'm happy about that. Though they got a lot of ex-players kind of getting involved, like running. I think I saw Terrell Buckley's coaching the team. I just saw a bunch of ex-players like coaching these teams, which is good for bringing fans in, right?
Yeah.
But I just don't see it. Like, if you're just going to be an NFL minor league, every league that's ever tried to do that has kind of failed. Even the USFL didn't have any real impact this season.
But where I think it's going to succeed is the fact that they're partnered with the NFL. The NFL is greenlighting this. Before it was just, okay, let me in person say I'm working with them, and then that's kind of what Vince McMahon did. But they weren't partnered, but they were like allowing people to go up and back. But now it's like it's partnered, in public. They got things in place there.
It's like a minor league.
Yeah, it's set as a minor league, so you can go up and back, and you're not competing with the NFL. You're actually working with the NFL, and you're going to create in your own niche. That's where it could succeed. And
well, I'll be interested to see how it plays out. I'm not as optimistic as I was before COVID because I think the XFL was doing well, and there was just a lot of other competition. The USFL didn't do very well this last iteration, but they also didn't play any teams in cities. Like they were like, oh, this is a Tampa team, but Tampa didn't play in Tampa. They all played in one football field.
Yeah, they all played in Birmingham, yeah.
So there's no home field. Like, why would Tampa support a team that's called Tampa if they don't actually play in Tampa?
Yeah.
And it was like the Raptors fans that kind of forgot about the Raptors for a year because they were playing in Tampa. Fans want to get attached to something, but they have to be able to see it. They have to be able to touch it.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with that with The Rock. But before we move on to the last thing of the day, I do want to get your opinion on this. What does the business look like without Vince McMahon? We heard Tony Khan come out and be like, ha, 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 I'm the longest running CEO in business in professional wrestling, which A, is false. The TNA or Impact CEO has been there since 2017 with Anthem. Obviously, Billy Corgan with NWA. And I also think it's a bitch move by Tony Khan because you're just trying to get 5 seconds of popularity to boost up Rampage that night.
I just think that he did it as a joke. And
yeah, but it was a bad joke.
and he knows he has come out and said that that the best thing for business is competitiveness, and I think he's going to take this in stride where he's probably looking forward to going one-on-one with Triple H.
I told you he's turning more into Eric Bischoff every day.
And that's what I like is you don't want to think, oh, he's done. You don't want to think complacent. I think he knows that this is going to help AEW because that they're going to have to be more alert because now you have a younger, fresher mind in Triple H who's going to be big business against you.
Don't think there's something to be said about humility though, and like taking the high road?
There is, but then
business ethics.
But then that's been Vince and Tony Khan. They've gone back and forth like this.
I don't know, back and forth. It was more like Tony Khan saying shit and Vince pretending he doesn't exist.
Well, he's come out and said a lot of stuff, and people look at Tony Khan more, which I see why he's more vocal about things. But Vince has come out and said things, but because he's been around more, people are like, okay, you said it. Tony Khan's just making sure that he's not being, I guess you would say, bullied. Eric Bischoff was the same way, so I guess you could say the same thing. But to me, Eric Bischoff and Tony Khan are completely different people.
I think Eric, though, for all his bad flaws, Eric matured, and you saw later.
It takes time. It takes time to do that.
But he tried to warn Tony Khan. He like, look, you're going down the path I went, and it didn't work out well. You might want to try a different path. And Tony Khan messed around and banned his ass. Like, come on.
Well, no, he didn't ban him for that. He banned him because Eric Bischoff goes around and he says one thing to you, but then to the media, he says a completely different thing. And he was just like that with Vince. And that's why Vince had that love-hate relationship because of it.
I mean, Paul Heyman does that, and Paul still works there.
Well, Paul is also the advocate. I mean,
ask AJ Styles about Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
But what do you think? Okay, so as an industry, you think it's going to be more competitive with AEW and Triple H, and also I don't think it's fair that Triple H took the wrath for the NXT thing because you're talking about a quote unquote major second promotion in AEW going against a developmental promotion in NXT. To claim you won that war. It's like, okay, that's like the NBA beating up on the G League. Like you're supposed to win that war because you got people like Chris Jericho and the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and all these guys that are supposed to be main superstars going against Grayson Waller and young guys you're hoping become stars. Like, it's a different world. It's not you weren't going against Kevin Owens and Finn Balor and
still to this day, and still to this day, I think it was the wrong move to make NXT live. I always thought that it should have stayed on the network. It should be on Peacock, and it should be what it was because it was successful that way. I still think that it should go back to it. I don't think that making it go live was the right move. I think they did it for money.
I feel like they are though. I feel like they kind of have with the like the the NXT 2.0. What are they calling it? The like the future show they have.
Level Up.
Yeah, Level Up. Like, I feel like that's what that kind of is. They're kind of like playing both hands. Yeah. Because you got to remember, the reason NXT became as big as it did is because Triple H could not control Raw and SmackDown. He couldn't control Raw and SmackDown, so that was his baby. He had like CFO or COO operations, but Vince ran Raw and SmackDown. Vince ran Raw and SmackDown.
They have two different visions. Triple H, like, you can say what you want. I still think that those indie wrestlers could have succeeded on Raw or SmackDown, but it was to me. I see this all along. I say it was rigged to fail, in my opinion, because you had all these guys, and I'll use Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano just as two examples. Very successful, made a lot of money, very popular, but Vince has the vision of the 6'11", 7-foot tall guy who can make you money, and these guys were never going to be that. Of course, there were exceptions like Rey Mysterio. He came in and even people like Chris Jericho and Eddie Guerrero and there's guys that were exceptions to the rule. but his main thing was that. And all these guys were coming in, and Vince wants to repackage them, re-gimmick them, because then he can make 100% of the money instead of, say, 65%, which is great for the company. But then to go out and say that these guys, when you do that, were failing and it was Triple H's fault, which to me is a discredit to him.
The scapegoat.
And then you make an scapegoat because he was doing the Black and Gold was very successful.
It's a very solid third brand.
And you have wrestlers that are on the roster now, like Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, who was
almost every star they have.
Every star. But you're kind of making a scapegoat because you want to pick and choose who you want from there, but then you don't want to use some of them. But then when it doesn't succeed, it's because of him and not you. And it was that decision to make it live. And on the same night that AEW was already on in the beginning.
So I honestly hope the one thing that changes the most is the one thing AEW does right. So AEW takes these stars, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, so on and so forth, and lets them be who they are. They don't try to trademark them. They don't try to change their gimmick, Chris Jericho, for instance. And what they do is kind of what we do at Fighters First. We enter these non-exclusive agreements, right? Like, we want to make money off your name too. And while those people are there, you can sell 1,000 Kenny or 1,000,000 Kenny Omega shirts, right? And guess who's profiting? You and the wrestler. But what happens is the Kenny Omegas are bringing in the Kenny Omega crowd to your promotion. The Young Bucks are bringing in the Young Buck crowd to your promotion. And you're upping your marketability. You're upping everything. Cody Rhodes, when Cody came in, Cody brought his family, his legacy, his market to AEW. Same thing when they brought in some bigger WWE names, you know, the Daniel Bryans, a.k.a. Bryan Danielson. Guess what? He brought his fans with him. And yeah, his name changed, but that's because he went back to the gimmick he wanted to work. You look at the same thing with Adam Cole. Adam Cole was allowed to be Adam Cole. See, Triple H allowed those guys to stay that. The Samoa Joes were allowed to stay Samoa Joe in NXT. Adam Cole was allowed to be NXT. You know, Kyle O'Reilly, all those guys, Roderick Strong, they were allowed to keep their gimmicks in NXT because of Triple H. He was like, he understood that simple concept that there's more eyes on the prize because we're not creating a new character. Whereas Vince would take these guys up to the main roster. You could even look at some current examples like Raquel Gonzalez is now Raquel Rodriguez. Like, he wants to make everything his own baby. So, like you said, he get 100% of the money.
And it works. It works. Yeah, and it works. But then at the same time,
to an extent, not anymore though.
Yeah, exactly. But like, just like I was just about to say, I was like, it works, but now it works less and less as time goes on.
I mean, for every success project you have, like a Roman Reigns, you also have a Karrion Kross who came out to look like a gladiator / dominatrix. Like, that was Vince's weird oddball, like, hey, I got this thing sitting around the warehouse. Can you put this on? Like, the point that didn't make any sense with Vince running WWF and Triple H running, or WWE and Triple H running NXT, was Triple H built these guys or girls up. The Sasha Banks, the Charlottes. And for a long time, Vince would let them carry that character onto the main roster. We saw it from the very beginning with Paige when she came out, you know, and upset AJ Lee and was able to be Paige, right?
Yeah.
Emma kept her little weird gimmick. Everybody came up from NXT early on were allowed to keep the gimmicks. They might have been slightly tweaked for WWE TV, but they were allowed to keep the gimmicks. Now, they're completely changing their names. Like, what are they going to do with Braun Breaker when he comes to is he going to be like a Steiner or is he going to be something completely different? I'm surprised they let Thomas Ciampa keep his name, but he's also come back and forth between WWE and NXT a few times. So I guess
and that's just Ciampa now, and that's just Ciampa.
Yeah, like Austin Theory is now just Theory. Like, Vince has this thing, and that's fine. It's worked for a number of years.
Exactly.
But me personally, I'm optimistic that if they don't sell the company in the next couple of years, if they do which is very much up in the air, if they do give it a run for their money and let Stephanie and Triple H kind of control the creative, I really would love to see, like, they can actually put AEW out of business because they have the market share and the same similar booking philosophy that AEW does, because AEW is not much different than NXT. If you're going to bring that Triple H creative to like the main roster, with the amount of money they have, Tony Khan would be in a lot of trouble. That said, there's still going to be some Vince influence. There's still going to be a lot of Vince hanger-ons. We don't know the future of Kevin Dunn, for better or worse. He might be a horrible human being by all accounts, but he's one of the best producers in the business. The reason why WWE TV looks the way it does is because of Kevin Dunn. So you don't know the people they're bringing in can carry the weight of the people that were there before, whether they were good or bad people. It doesn't matter. It's a heavy load to carry on your shoulders.
I think that's why they came out and were like, oh, we got a lot of this put in space. He's doing this, he's doing that. You've heard that apparently Adam Pearce is going to have a big job in Gorilla moving forward. He's rubbing people the right way with what he's done there. So you might see him and Gorilla spelling Triple H a lot because he's going to be running back from NXT to Raw and SmackDown from time to time. They're trying to
see what happened with Jeff Jarrett.
That too,
because he was a Vince guy, and I'd be interested. They're letting him finish out this gimmick with SummerSlam. Now, of course, he's also going to be the next night of Ric Flair's final match.
And then that's another thing with him getting put back into WWE's good graces just in time.
Well, I don't know if that's what I'm saying. I don't know if he's going to stay there because right now he's the head of house shows and stuff like that. He's the one in charge of house shows now because Adam Pearce got more responsibility.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of moving parts. I'd be interested to see y'all comments. Leave a comment below. Let us know what you think the future of the business is going to be. But I think both Dan and I agree that we're kind of excited to see Triple H run the show and see what it could happen, right?
Exactly. I think just for everybody, like I've said it all along, it's not just good for WWE, it's good for AEW, it's good for Impact, it's good for New Japan, it's good for everybody through and through.
Yeah, more competition equals more dollars for everybody. But speaking of dollars, before we get out of here, I want to get your thoughts. Sunday night, Ric Flair's final match. Who would have thought Vince retired before Rick? But Ric Flair's final match. Jeff Jarrett's going to be busy. He's the special referee on Saturday night. Both events are in Nashville, ironically. Saturday night for the Street Profits and Usos. Next night, he'll be in a match with Jay Lethal against Andre Idolo. I can always butcher it. Idolo.
Andrade El Idolo.
Yeah. And Ric Flair. I will say so far the gimmick has been absolutely horrible. Like the little skit they performed where they busted open a 70. What is it? 73? 73. Yeah, it busted open a set. Look, you ain't got a lot of blood left, bro. Stop bleeding yourself. 73-year-old bleeding in the parking lot. And I've never heard Ric Flair drop that many curse words in a promo. He's like, F you, Jarrett, mother F this. He's going ham on and then Jarrett just starts beating. It's horrible.
And then on top of that, the next day they have Jeff Jarrett on Conrad Thompson's podcast or vice versa. And they're going at it on the podcast. Talking about Flair being a drunk.
Yeah, and I don't know. Is Flair trying to be a heel for his final show? Is that that's the worst booking ever? Why? You're supposed to be celebrated. We're going out big time. Ric Flair's final match, and you want to be the bad guy? What?
I do see why they're doing the 2-on-2. It makes sense. That part makes sense.
So somebody could do the work.
You got him. It just so happens Andrade is his son-in-law now of 2 months who he gets along with fabulously. Everybody knows that. So he can carry a lot of load on that side.
I feel work because I thought him and Jay Lethal had real beef. I feel work.
Yeah. And then Jay Lethal is the guy that's been working with Ric Flair behind the scenes.
Right here in Tampa.
And he knows him through and through. And then you got Jeff Jarrett, who's just the Nashville name base.
He was the only guy available.
Yeah.
Everybody else said no.
Yeah, and it works perfectly because they're in Nashville. So it's it makes sense there. But I just didn't get the fact that they're they had the whole thing where they beat him up. He's all bloodied up all over Jay Lethal not getting put on the card.
Dude, whereas if they really wanted Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett as his final opponents, they would have announced it weeks ago. They would have done that gimmick in that storyline weeks ago to promote it longer. not the week of the event or the week before the event. They were supposed to originally have, I think it was Flair and FTR versus Rock and Roll Express, and they wanted Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah.
Ricky's like, I'm not coming out of retirement unless you pay me like 7 figures. And they were like, well, we don't have that much money. So Ricky's like, all right, cool, I'm staying.
And then on top of that, FTR's working the New Japan show the day before.
Yeah, that would have been a hell for them to try to even get back. But they were willing to do it. Rock and Roll Express went out and had their retirement match like less than a few weeks ago. They just had their final match. So nothing was falling in place for Ric Flair's final match. There is a pretty good card attached to this thing with a lot of AEW and Impact wrestlers. Like,
and New Japan too, yeah.
But the main event, here's the thing, and even Gerald Briscoe said it on his show, Briscoe and Bradshaw. He'll hear about what happens. He's one of Ric Flair's closest friends, lifetime. He'll hear what happens in the news, like on the internet. He's not going to watch it because he knows that Ric Flair has a pacemaker in his checks. And while Ric Flair may joke about, oh, yeah, they got to do is plug it back in, it's fine. Dude, if you're dead and they don't realize you're dead, you're just laying on the ground like selling a bump.
Yeah.
Do you want to be one of the wrestlers that was in the ring that when Ric Flair died?
No.
That's a big deal. Like, people can joke about it. It's like, oh, it's not that serious. It's fake. It's scripted. It's choreographed. Ric Flair's almost died like 3 times. The plane crash, multiple alcoholism and kidney stuff. Like, his last one, like when he was like 68, 69, he wasn't supposed to survive. He was dead for minutes or something at the time. Nobody wants to be the one to do that match because they don't want to be liable for what happens to Rick. And nobody wants to be the one that for the rest of your life, oh, you killed Ric Flair.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest fear. That's why I'm not actually watching the match. Like, I don't want to see that shit. I'll read. I'm like Gerald Briscoe. I'll read about it later. I might watch some of the highlights from the other matches because they all look great. Got a bunch of like different titles on the line and stuff on the undercard.
Yeah.
I could care less about that main event. I hope Rick comes out of it okay. I hope he can talk his shit afterwards and do what he does. But here's also my biggest fear. It won't be his last match. Because if he does come out of it again, what's to stop him from doing another special event?
And there's rumors that if it goes off well, he might do this world tour between 5 cities.
I mean, we've seen the Rolling Stones. How many final tours of the Rolling Stones had?
So many.
Kiss, Aerosmith. Like, that's what Ric Flair wants to be. But you have a pacemaker. Like, I can't. I just can't get behind it. I hope, like I said, I don't care who wins or loses that match. I mean, we know Rick's going to win. But, like, we just don't. Let's come out okay. That's all I want. Because as a wrestling fan, that will, and I'm not even joking, that could literally kill the business.
Yeah.
Somebody like Ric Flair dies in the ring, the business takes a hit. AEW, WWE, everybody. Nobody's going to watch. Everybody's going to be disgusted by what happened. And nobody has put a stop to this thing. No athletic commission, nobody, because it's considered entertainment. But you still have to pass a lot of like stuff. Even, I don't know what Tennessee's athletic commission is. But if they were in Baltimore, this match would have never happened. We know how famous like strict Maryland's is. Like, you even bleed, they like stopped the match.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they went to Nashville because that was the only place they could probably book the event. Because why wouldn't you put that in a bigger place? Why wouldn't you put that in Charlotte?
I think it was supposed to be in Charlotte and they had to move it. And it just so happens that Nashville is where they're having SummerSlam. So,
yeah, they was riding the coattails of that one.
Yeah.
But, you know, it is what it is. We'll see. Before we get out of here, quick question. Are you going to watch?
I'm going to watch the undercard, but I'm not going to watch that. I have no.
We're in agreement on that one.
Yeah.
Good to see you again, my friend. Good to be back in business. Of course, check out Cage My IQ. His channel will be in the show notes. Dan always putting out a lot of content. Hell, even doing some sports shows nowadays. So Dan's all over the place. You can't miss him on YouTube. You flip every channel, there's Dan. Smiling away. Of course, check out our network, FightersFirst.shop. Check out the clothing line. Check out the Slamtown stuff. It's pretty dope. And Dan will be back with us on Art of MMA on Wednesday. So there you go. See plenty of him. We got a big show planned for tomorrow for that one. So check it all out. Make sure you subscribe and like the show. Any final words, Dan?
Let's enjoy this week of wrestling. We got a big road to SummerSlam, so let's enjoy that. and just keep up with the news on everything with the WWE. Let's see if these changes wind up being good or if they're going to miss Vince.
Leave a comment. Let us know what you think about Vince. Good, bad, ugly. Leave a comment. I'm Mike N. That's Dan Bakley. This is Slamtown. We'll see y'all soon. We're out.